Okay, I hope I'm audible to all my students who are attending this particular lecture for the PG CUET Economics entrance course. In this particular lecture, I'm going to start with the discussion of the 2024 question paper, which has come up for the CUET Economics entrance. Okay, so I hope all students can see the CUET 2024 question paper for economics on your screens. If I scroll down this question paper, students can first of all see that this section contains 75 questions. Okay, it's an online exam. There are 75 questions. We need to attempt all 75 questions, so there is no choice. Okay, then every question carries 4 marks. So the total number of marks for the section is 75 times 4, which is 300. Okay, there is a negative marking. You lose 1 mark for the wrong answer. So for every correct answer, you gain 4 marks. For every wrong answer, you lose 1 mark. Okay, so that was all regarding the description of the question paper. Okay, so we are going to start with the discussion of question number 1, which all students can now see on your screens. These are all MCQs, which I'm going to start solving from this particular lecture. So let's start with the discussion of 2024 question paper for the PG CUET economics entrance. So let's read question number 1. What is meant by a trade-off? So we are given 4 options. We have learned this in basic microeconomics that a trade-off simply means that you get something, but then you have to give up something in return. You have to sacrifice something. And the first concept where students have learned trade-off is the concept of production possibility frontier. Remember, a production possibility frontier captures combination of two goods which the economy can produce given the available resources and technology. Okay, so because resources are limited and scarce and they can be put to alternative uses, and because resources are not equally efficient in production of all the goods, the production possibility frontier is downward sloping, which means if the economy decides to produce more of good eggs, the economy has to sacrifice good ones. So there's a trade-off. So one is not correct. A transaction at a price above or below the equilibrium price represented by a point outside the PPF, not correct. Represented by a point inside the PPF, not correct. Remember, a point outside the production possibility frontier is the unattainable combination. If you talk about a point outside the production possibility frontier, that's the unattainable combination of two goods, which you cannot achieve. If you look at a point inside the production possibility frontier, it represents inefficient or underutilization of resources. Okay, so my answer is option 4, a constraint that requires giving up one thing to get the other. This is my answer. Okay, so I can just come to the whiteboard and make also students write a note for the same. I'm just writing the main heading for completeness. This is PG Economics CUET 2024 question paper we are discussing. We are looking at question number 1, and I'm just making all students write that in economics, a trade-off refers to a concept where in order to gain something, one must give up something. One must give up something. And I can write a trade-off usually occurs. A trade-off usually occurs because resources are scarce and have alternative uses. Because the resources are scarce, the economic resources are land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. They are usually scarce and they have alternative uses. Therefore, a choice needs to be made. A choice needs to be made. That is why a trade-off simply refers to gaining something by giving up on something. Okay, and I can also write that trade-offs in production theory, trade-offs in production theory are represented by the production possibility front. They are represented by the production possibility frontier, short form PPF, which captures all possible combinations, of two goods that the economy can produce, with available resources and technology. Okay, and now I can also erase the initial part and I can write a short note on what represents a point inside the PPF and a point outside the PPF. So I can write that a point outside the production possibility frontier represents a combination of two goods that the economy cannot produce, with its available resources and technology. Whereas a point inside the PPF shows inefficient or underutilization of resources. Inefficient means you're not employing resources with the least cost, or you're underutilizing them. You're not fully employing them. Underutilization of resources. We have also done production possibility frontier in our introductory microeconomics course as well as at the high school level economics. Okay, so when I talk about trade-off is represented only when you move along the PPF. So trade-off is represented when, let me erase this part off. Trade-off is represented when we move, from one point to another on the same production possibility frontier. So I've given too much explanation just to help all students understand, and a quick diagram as well. Although all this was not required, we had to mark the correct answer, but my job is also to give detailed explanation to students as to how we got that answer. Suppose we have two goods, good X and good Y. Then the production possibility frontier is going to look like this. PP denotes my production possibility frontier. Remember from my lectures that the production possibility frontier, under the assumption that resources are not equally efficient in production of all the goods, the production possibility frontier is downward sloping and concave to the origin. So when you move from one point, say point A, to another point, say B, it shows a trade-off. But when you look at a point C, it represents inefficient or underutilization of resources. And if you look at a point above the PPF, say this point, it represents unattainable combination. Unattainable combination of good X and good Y. That means you cannot achieve this combination with your available resources and technology. Point B represents unattainable combination. Okay, so hoping students have understood this. So trade-off simply means that you are getting something, but you have to sacrifice the other. You are gaining good X, but you have to sacrifice good Y. Okay. So if I come back to the question paper now, let's look at question number 2. Question number 2. If a production function is given by Q as a function of X and Y, which is A X to the power A, Y to the power B, where we are given that A plus B is equal to 2, the function is said to exhibit decreasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale, increasing returns to scale, or zero returns to scale. Now, we have learned about the returns to scale concept in our lectures in microeconomics at introductory level and intermediate level as well. Returns to scale simply captures the proportion or the percentage by which output goes up and all the inputs are scaled up by a certain proportion. And if you look at this particular production function, it's a Cobb-Douglas kind of a production function. And the exponents, the sum of the exponents shows returns to scale. So if I come to the whiteboard to explain this. So for a production function, Q, which is a k to the power a, l to the power b. This was the production function given to us. A x to the power, we were given x and y. Let me write that also, that only. A x to the power a, y to the power b. Okay. The returns to scale, is captured by a plus b. And I can write in general, returns to scale captures the proportion, or the percentage by which output, which is Q, increases when all the inputs are simultaneously increased, by a given proportion. When all the inputs are simultaneously increased by a given proportion or percentage. So if A plus B is exactly equal to 1, it implies that the production function exhibits constant returns to scale. It means if I double my X and Y, my output will also exactly double. I'm just taking an example. Similarly, if A plus B is more than 1, production function exhibits increasing returns to scale. It means suppose I hypothetically double my X and Y, my output will be more than double. And if A plus B is less than 1, production function exhibits decreasing returns to scale. It means hypothetically, suppose I double my X and Y, my output will now less than double. Okay, so in the numerical, we were given that A plus B is equal to 2. If I come back to the question paper, we were given that A plus B is 2. I can say that since A plus B is more than 1, it implies that my production function Q of xy exhibits increasing returns. it exhibits increasing returns to scale. It means if I increase X and Y by the same proportion, output will increase by more than that. Hypothetically, suppose I double X and double Y, output will more than double. So my answer is increasing returns to scale. This is my answer for this particular question. So hoping all students have understood how we have solved question number 2. Okay. So now I stop in this particular lecture. In the next lecture, I'm going to start with the discussion of question number 3. So I hope all students have enjoyed this short introductory lecture for the 2024 question paper. Okay. Any doubts in this lecture, students can unmute their mic and ask, or you can get in touch with me for doubts on call or WhatsApp, or you can mail me your doubts at divineschoolofeconomics@gmail.com. This is where I stop in this particular lecture.